The website we are going to develop is a gaming website. In this game, the player has to escape the shooting arrows. The longer they can survive, more points they score. This is a quick demo of what we are going to build. On the screen canvas, there is a smiley and arrows shooting at random height. There are buttons on the screen to move the smiley up, down, left or right. The score keeps on adding till the smiley escapes the arrows. To draw the objects of the game, we will be using HTML canvas container element. The HTML canvas element is displayed as a rectangular object on the web page. Canvas can be drawn with JavaScript. The elements that are displayed on the screen are added on the canvas using JavaScript. We will be going through how the components, functionality and features are added on the website. This is just a tutorial video, so once you have learned the basic, you would be able to add new features to the game. We will be using Eclipse application to develop the website. If you don't have that on your system, you can go to the internet and then type Eclipse download and go to the official website. Select the version that is applicable to your system. Once you have downloaded the file, you can click on the exe to open the Eclipse application. So the first landing page is having some information about Eclipse. If you want to learn more about Eclipse, you can click on the tutorials. And if you know already about Eclipse, you can click on this button at the top right corner and then go to the development window. From the file menu, select a new project. We will be using Dynamic Web project. Give it a name. There are two basic types of Java application, desktop application and web application. Desktop applications are only available for individual desktops. Web applications are the ones that can be accessed through the internet and that are deployed on the server. Under the dynamic web content folder of the newly created project, add a new HTML file called index.html and a JavaScript file we will be creating as index.js. Now let's go to the index.html file. We will start typing the code here. Here are different steps that we will follow to develop the website. First, we will create a canvas. Canvas is a component in which the arrows and the smiley object is. So we will create the canvas first, and then we will add a player, that is the object here, and then we will add controls. Then we will add functionality to the controls so that we can move the object. Then we will add arrows shooting at random heights and random intervals. Then we will refresh the frame so that it will feel like the arrows are moving on their own. And then we will add the logic update. Then we'll add the logic to update the score. And finally, we will add the logic to identify crash. And then the game will end there. So the first step is to create a canvas. The canvas is created using the JavaScript. So first we will create the HTML document file, and from there we will add logic to call the JavaScript function. We are creating the body of the HTML document. Now this is the JavaScript file. First we are going to create a canvas object. Canvas object will have a canvas element attribute and some functions to take action on the canvas. This canvas object has to be accessed from different places, so we will declare it as a global variable. So we're calling the object as play area. Inside the object we are declaring the canvas element. Start is the function that will be called when the canvas needs to be created on the web page. So we have to specify height, width of the canvas so that it can take that shape on the web page. Now we are adding the canvas as the first child node of the HTML document. Now canvas context is the object used to draw the other elements inside the canvas. So we are instantiating the canvas context so that we can use that later to draw the other elements. Now we are creating a function that will create the canvas. This function will be called when the web page is loaded. Now we are going to call this start game function on the page load. Now let's run this. So this web application has to be run on a web server. We currently do not have a web server configured to run this web application. So we have to configure the server first. In our prior video of this video series, we had installed XAMPP solution. Web server Tomcat comes as part of the XAMPP package. So let's go and browse the XAMPP folder. Go to the Tomcat folder, select bin directory. Now let's see what version of Tomcat we have. We have to select the same version while configuring the Tomcat in Eclipse. So this is version 7.0. So let's go back to the Eclipse. Select Tomcat version 7. So when the application is run, it opens the browser window with the local host address. I have entered the address of the application on the Chrome browser to view the details. We don't see any object in the browser because it's all white. The background is white and the canvas is white as well with no border. So we will change the color of the body and we will also add a border for the canvas so that we can see them. So now the canvas is showing. We are also going to give a title to the website. Next step is to add player on the canvas, which is the image object. To store the images, I'm adding a folder here. We will be referencing images from this folder into our JavaScript code. I have few images ready. I will save the images in the image folder. These are simple PNG files for smiley and arrow. You can use any images you like. The names, however, should match with how they are referenced in the code. Now I'm writing a function to draw the image on the canvas. So as we saw earlier, that JavaScript is used to create the images on the canvas. So here I'm writing a function to create image on the canvas. This function would take width, height, and image source and the image position as input parameters. We invoke the canvas context object to draw the image. Now this is the canvas context signature to draw the image. We are declaring player as a global object so that we can access it from the functions and then change the properties like position, speed from the functions. So the object is having width height of 30 pixels and its position is 10 pixels from the left edge of the canvas and 120 pixels from the top. Make sure you have the right spelling for the images. Okay, so the image is showing now. The next step is to add controls to move the object. We are adding 4 buttons to move the smiley up, down, left, and right. So buttons are showing now. Now to center align the buttons, I am adding a division with the width of 480 pixels. And aligning the buttons in the center. So the buttons are showing in the center now. Now we are going to add a function to move the smiley object when the control buttons are pressed. So this will be based on the direction. For each button we will assign a direction and accordingly we will change the position of the smiley. We need to add two more properties to the image to indicate the speed. So direction up is denoted with a speed as -1 in y direction. Down movement is denoted by +1 speed in y direction. Left movement is denoted by speed in x direction as -1, and right movement is denoted by speed in x direction as 1. Now we are adding the calls for each button press. So when the mouse is down, we will call the move function, passing the parameter as up for up button. Similarly, we will be calling the function with the parameters based on the button pressed. In order to see the movement, we have to change the frames. So with every frame, the position of the smiley changes, and because the frames are changing very frequently, it feels like it's moving. So now we are adding the logic that the frame is refreshing by every moment, and on every interval we are changing the position of the smiley. Before we show the next frame, we have to clear the previous frame. So we are also adding the clear function to the play area object. So what it will do is just clear the canvas. We are also adding new method to the images. So what it will do, it will change the speed of the object. And we also need to add the update method. So this will draw the object again based on the new position. With every frame update, we are clearing the play area and then putting a new position for the player so that with the next frame the image appears to be moving. We also need to stop the movement of the player when the user is no longer pressing the button. So when the user presses the button, player moves. When the button is released, the player should stop moving. So we are calling the stop move when the mouse is up. So we have completed adding the functionality to the controls. Now the next step is to add arrows into the canvas. The arrows have to be added when the page is loaded, and after that at every regular interval. To introduce the arrows to the canvas, we calculate the total space available for the arrows to get into the canvas from the right canvas side. To introduce the arrows to the canvas, we calculate the total space available for arrows to get into the canvas from right canvas side. Then we'll push two arrows at a time with some random space between them. After an interval, another set of 2 arrows follow. So what we are doing here is we are calculating the maximum height, maximum gap between the arrows, and based on the available space we are putting the gap between the arrows. We are declaring a global array variable object for arrows as well, so that we can access them from different functions. For every frame we are putting 2 arrows into the arrow array, and there is a variable gap between the 2 arrows. Gap variable is the gap between 2 arrows, which changes with every frame. We are creating a function that will return true after every 50 milliseconds. This will be displayed duration for 1 frame. With every frame the arrows need to be moved towards the left, so we are adding the logic to move the arrows 1 pixel to the left with every frame. So now let's refresh the web page. It's not working, that means something is wrong. I'm checking the error console. To see the error console you can either press function and F12 together, or right click on the web page and then do inspect, and then it will show you the console. So here I'm getting error because I have a typo with word math. And max height. And I have one more typo here with array name as it should be arrows. Okay, there's no longer error, but it looks like there is another typo. Success fixed now. Now let's refresh the web page again. So now the arrows are showing up on the canvas now. Now we have to add the logic to check the collision with the arrows. and when the collision happens we have to end the game. So now I'm adding a method here to check whether the smiley object is to the left, right, top or bottom of the arrow object. If it is not, then it would mean that crash has happened with the arrow. Now at every frame refresh we have to check whether the player has crashed with the arrows, and if it is a crash scenario then the frame will not be refreshed anymore and the game will end. So this is a section where the frame refresh logic is present. So before we do any other operations we have to check whether the object has crashed with the arrows. Now let's refresh the page. We are getting some error, so it looks there's a typo again at crash with. Okay, fix this. Now let's refresh the page. So it is working now. Next step is to show the score on the screen. The score has to update with every frame change. We will use canvas context to draw the score text. The score text will change with every frame refresh. So now the score is showing on the canvas. Okay, I see undefined, so that is because frame number has typo. Okay, so let's fix this and then refresh the page. Okay, so now the score is working. So this ends our gaming website development. Again, this is only covering the basic functionalities. If you like, you can add features like changing the image of the smiley at the crash and adding live so that the players get 3 chances instead of just 1 before the game ends. The website now is ready to be deployed on the server. In the next video, we will deploy the website onto the web server that is set up on the home computer. If you like our videos, hit like and subscribe to our channel.